When we're collecting data, it is important to know what type of data we're collecting. This is important to determine what type of statistical tests or analyses we want to do. There are two main types of data, either qualitative data or quantitative data. When we have quantitative data, it can either be discrete data or continuous data. So let's first talk about the difference between qualitative and quantitative data. Qualitative data are data that are categorizing or describing a population. So for example, if we're interested in knowing about students at our campus and we want to know how far they drive to campus, this is a data value that when we ask the question to a student and we're collecting this data, how far do you drive, their response would be a numerical value, for example, 10 miles. If we ask the students and we want to know what type of vehicles they drive, we would ask the student, what type of vehicle do you drive, and their response would be, for example, a Ford Escort, which would be a category. So that would be qualitative data. Now in quantitative data, we may also ask the student, how many days a week do you come to campus? They would answer 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are counting values. So in the quantitative data, we can either have discrete or continuous. An example of the discrete would be how many days do they come? Example of continuous, quantitative continuous would be how far they drive to school. So when you talk about qualitative versus quantitative data, you don't want to just focus on quantitative being numbers, because you want to focus on how do you collect the data. For example, I could tell you 78% of students at our college drive Ford Escorts. Well, there's a number involved, but the number is the statistic that's describing the data. When I collect the data, I'm asking what type of car do you drive, and their answer is a categorical response. So let's look at these two examples in a business setting here. John, who's an ad salesman, tallies the number of companies he cold calls each week. Is this data qualitative or quantitative, discrete, or quantitative continuous? Okay, because when he collects the data, he's counting how many companies he calls each week. That would make this quantitative discrete. Make sense? So this one will be quantitative discrete. Now in the second problem, John, an ad salesman, tallies the types of company he calls each week. Is this data qualitative or quantitative discrete or quantitative continuous? This one would be, what do you think? That's right, qualitative.